Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday Theta Talks. My name is Maisha, and I am here with Sanaiyah every Tuesday, giving you a little bit of insight into how Theta Healing can work with many different areas. So we give you specific examples, we get specific experiences, testimonials from clients who have actually gone through these issues, and give you real life scenarios as well. So this evening we are going to be talking about our ancestors, if you haven't figured that out yet. So a lot of our issues can actually be passed down through our ancestors. When we talk about ancestors, we are talking about our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, all the way down our genetics. So we're going to explore how that actually happens, and we're going to explore more on I can see Sanaiyah is there. Just adding her in. Hello.
Hi.
Let me adjust my camera a little bit. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I think everything is good today, which is great. Okay.
The
So
Instagram gods are smiling at us.
so this is a very I mean, all our topics are really quite interesting, right? But I like this one in particular
Okay.
because, there's a lot of examples that, I can share. I'm sure both of us can share relating to situations that have shown us that, our ancestry creates a big impact on our current day life.
Yeah,
We
absolutely. And by the
may
way,
or may not see that, um, but I'm hoping that this episode will allow people to, think a little bit deeper into this. Go ahead, I interrupted you.
so I just wanted to say hello to Arthur, who just dropped a hello to us in the chat. And then I also, wanted to lead with, Maisha, the fact that today's episode is called Are You Living, Your Own Life or Theirs, right? So it's really about understanding, are we authentically living our own life, or are we living a life that maybe we're seeking our parents' approval, maybe it's something they wanted us to do, or we are in a way correcting a wrong or an imbalance from their past. Like, whose life are you living? Is it yours? Is it theirs, as in your parents, or your ancestors sometimes too? So we're always correcting the
And I think
past.
why this is very important is because it's like a veil that you have over, you in your life. Because if you're not truly living your life, your authentic life. Like I had a client that came in and said, I want to, I've already completed my goal. I have abundance, I have financial freedom, but now I'm kind of like, what do I do next? And so we uncovered through a session today, a lot of his motivations was trying to prove himself to his mom. It was coming out of the proving. So once he done that, then he's like, oh, what do I do now? Right? The momentum was
Or the
related to
motivation, you mean, like the
motivation.
motivation.
Yeah, absolutely, was related to that.
Yeah.
So if we're not living our lives based on what we want, and we end up, like you said, overcorrecting or overcompensating or proving ourselves, or living the lives that we feel would get the most approval, that would get the most acceptance, then we end up, wasting our lives, right? We are here for a purpose and a reason.
Yeah. And I love that you shared your client story, because it reminded me of my client today, which is actually a very similar type of session where it was connected to family and ancestors. So I'd love to share. my session with my client today, which is, I had this lovely client come in, and what she said to me is, Sanaiyah, I feel empty. I feel I don't feel happy. I don't feel joyful. I don't feel excited. There's nothing to look forward to. Right. And I said, okay, well, tell me since when you've felt this way. And by the way, she's got that emotional challenge in her life where she just she just feels empty. And then she's got something going on with her ovaries where she's got cysts on both ovaries. All right. So she's got a physical and an emotional issue happening. And her cyst is very interesting because it's not affecting her necessarily in a very negative way, like in day-to-day life, like for example, normally would affect
It's
fertility.
there. Yeah. It's
It's just
just
there.
there.
It's big. Like it's definitely something she has to do something about, but it's not like life-threatening. It's not
Yeah.
causing her infertility issues because she's already had kids. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like something that she's very, very scared about, but she needs to deal with it, and she doesn't want to take medication. She doesn't
Right.
want to go on like pills that she's going to have to take for the rest of her life. But
Mm-hmm.
there is also the day-to-day no joy in her life. Okay, so let's figure out what happened, what's been going on in your life. Turns out in the last year and a half, um, she's lost siblings, family members. Her sibling lost their partner. Her niece got
Wow.
cancer. Basically, there was just a whole sequence of events where her side of the family has really just struggled for the last year and a half. And it's caused a lot of emotional stress for her because what is her feeling? I feel guilty. I am here in Manila. I'm living a very comfortable life. I have my family, everything is there.
Yeah.
And my family is struggling. They're living in the province. They're struggling with not only like these challenges in their life, but they are under constant stress. They are grieving. They're basically day-to-day life is such a struggle for them. And
Right.
I feel guilty,
Mm.
that I'm not doing anything more to help them. And she's like, I'm doing the best I can to help them. And she's like, I'm taking on all the stress, all the pain, all of that. But I wish I could do more. I can't do more. And I feel it's unfair. I feel guilty. Why am I living this life, which is comfortable and they aren't?
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happened is so interesting, the story, Maisha. What happened is because of what her family is going through, she has sacrificed her own well-being, mental health, inner peace, and she's subconsciously decided that she has to be unhappy also. She must be just as unhappy as her family. It's like a loyalty. So in Theta Healing, we call that hidden loyalty, right? Like if my family's suffering, I have to suffer too. So even
Yeah.
though she's got everything in her life working,
Mm.
she now basically is struggling with some form of depression because I'm not allowing myself to be happy because it's not fair that they have to struggle. I have to be in that same state. And this
Wow.
has been going on for a while. And then on top of that, the cysts in her ovaries. So what's happening physically with her condition is um, instead of her releasing like her period every month, it's actually going back up into her ovaries and it's collecting in her
Creating.
cysts. It's being collected in the cysts. So that's why she has these cysts. So I explained to her, you're not letting go of the pain, the grief, the tragedy, the trauma that your family's gone through. You're taking it and collecting it in your body, just like your body is collecting all this stuff and creating cysts in the ovaries. It's
Wow.
not releasing the period that's supposed to go out. It's being collected and stored in your body. So your physical body is mirroring what you're doing emotionally,
Great.
right? And then we had to do some digging and, it went down to, how can I be happy if they're not happy? That's just wrong. I'm not raised that way, right? How
Yeah.
can I celebrate things in life if they are in pain? It just feels wrong.
So carrying
And
the burden, right, of her
carrying the
family.
family burden,
Mm-hmm.
and I just did recently a podcast interview, and there was a reel that the podcast host Baos Rufo actually posted on Instagram, and it was about like how a lot of people have this eldest child syndrome where they
Mm,
feel they have to carry the responsibility of the family. And it's not always just the eldest child. I think it's a cultural thing. It shows up in a lot of Asian families. It shows up here in the Philippines
yeah,
with my clients,
absolutely.
where you feel that you have to carry the burden
Mm,
of the whole family sometimes, or your parents, and you stop living your life because you feel like you're not allowed to. You don't have the permission to live your own life. You have to live for what everybody else needs. Like you have to
right.
basically prioritize them and sacrifice your life. So it was a very controversial reel. There were a lot of
Mm,
opinions both ways, but it reminded me, Maisha, that we often carry on the burdens of our family
mm,
because we're taught that doing so is how we show love, show
right.
loyalty, show connection to our family. And while it's a beautiful thing, and the intention is beautiful, I really honor it. I really feel like that's something very important, to love your family. It should not cost you your health, your well-being, right?
Yeah,
Your emotional
absolutely.
peace. It should not cost you because you're no use to them,
Mm,
right? If you have no joy, if you're walking around like a zombie in your own life because
yeah,
you're sharing in their pain, you can't send them positive energy. You can't send them love. You can't support them. You can't nurture them because your cup is empty. You have
yeah,
nothing to give them, right? So how are
absolutely.
you going to, be of any support or use to them if you yourself are, as my client said, empty?
It's
So
like
the key,
misery loves company, right? So she's kind of
yeah.
putting
And
herself in
she's
that
this
situation.
situation, and they're separated by mile, like I don't know what the distance is, but like
Mm,
she's very far away from them,
yeah,
and yet feels compelled to share all that suffering and pain. Whereas I think what could benefit her family the most is if she could give them strength, if
right.
she could give them hope, if she could, just even give them relief for a short time. But if she's also in so much pain and sadness and all of that, then she can't really help them.
Yeah.
So sometimes the best thing we can do for our family is to be happy, right?
Mm,
The best thing we can do for our family is to take care of ourselves, so we have something to give them, not
correct.
sacrificing our life, right? And that's sometimes hard for people to feel comfortable. They feel like it's selfish. Like if I'm happy and they're not, that makes me selfish.
Yeah.
And it's not selfish. It's actually something that is so, so important for the people you love. So I'm so glad like today's topic is really about this.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, let me know. I
There's one of our watchers is, resonating with it. This really resonate with me. This is a culture of Filipino family. This has to be healed. And the cycle.
yeah. And it's our
And
culture too, right?
patterns passed to children, and it's connected to religious beliefs. Yeah, absolutely.
It's us too. We're a lot of Asian communities and families have this very similar type of pattern or cultural belief.
This reminds me of an example that we talk about, right? Because some people might say, okay, how does this actually happen? How does the loyalty or the connection happen with us without us even realizing? So it reminds me of Rachel Yehuda. We talk about her in our classes, and she talks about um, how ancestral programmings can actually be passed down, or trauma can actually be passed down. She did a lot of research with people who were exposed to the Holocaust, or maybe not even directly exposed, it's they were around or in that area or somehow connected. And she found out that their children, had a higher level of cortisol, their inability, the anxiety and the stress level was passed down to the
From
children
generation to
from
generation. Yeah.
generations,
Yeah.
right? So this is passed down through how through the DNA in terms of the expression of how it is expressed, right? So there's a lot of research. She even did research on 9/11, and people who were pregnant around that time were exposed to that incident, and their children have a tendency to carry on this trauma along. And I see this with my clients as well. Like, um especially when we talk about pregnancy, unprocessed trauma of the mother, right, can really be passed on to the children. Like I've had a lot of clients who may have been unwanted, maybe they had pregnancies where they were not ready, right? So then the child ends up picking up this feeling of I'm unwanted or I'm unloved or and they end up, like you say, overcompensating and wanting to please their parents. So it can even go back to what they have inherited through their parents,
Yeah,
right? I
and
have even gender matters. Like I've had
right.
clients who were were they, today even there were two boys, and then the third they wanted a girl. So now this third or a third child carries this feeling of, I'm not really wanted. They wanted a girl, right? So this really translates into many different areas and aspects of what we see in our day-to-day life, right?
Yeah.
I also worked on somebody who had an issue with getting pregnant. So
Okay.
when I worked on her, it turned out that she was carrying her mother's shame. And what was this shame about? Her mother got pregnant when she was like 14 or 15. And at that time, it's they're a very religious family. This is, not something that you do. It's very shameful what you have done. So now this child who is now a grown up who wants to have children is not able to get pregnant because subconsciously getting pregnant is shameful, right? So these
She's
are
carrying her
very,
mother's shame. She's carrying
yeah.
her mother's
And
shame who got
and
pregnant early.
after we cleared it 6 weeks later, she calls me up or she messages me and says, Maisha, I'm pregnant with twins. So be careful what you ask for, so you
I love
might
that.
get
I love that.
double.
Yeah. Maisha,
Yeah.
let's talk about the healing process, right? So we have given examples of different clients with different challenges. Like even the one you said about the gender. I actually worked with a woman today who
Mm,
says she has difficulty accepting praise and compliments in her life.
right.
And if anyone says she's good at her job or what, she just does not feel comfortable.
Mm,
And we went back to, where did this come from? And it turns out, same thing. She was born a girl and her parents wanted a boy. So she felt unwanted because she
mm,
was the wrong gender. She felt like she didn't want to come and be born in this family, in this body. Like there was a lot of these kind of, you could say like trauma stuck in her body and
right.
feelings and beliefs, right? So similar kind of things to what you've also talked about and what I shared. Now, the process of healing, I think, for a lot of people is confusing. Like, what are we
Mm,
actually doing,
mm,
right? So let's talk about that for a moment, right?
sure.
So what our job or what we do in our sessions is number one, get to the bottom for why something's happening. So when you
Correct.
talked about the girl who is this woman who can't get pregnant,
Mm,
it's because she's carrying shame in her body that she is carrying from her mother, who felt shame when she got pregnant,
yeah,
passed down to the child who's now your client. And the shame is stuck probably somewhere in her reproductive system. So
absolutely.
in a
Mm,
session, what you do is you find the shame, right? You
yeah,
find this energy of shame, not only emotionally, but where it is stored in the subconscious as a belief, which is a type of energy, and
yeah.
also where or how it's blocking her fertility,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you go through a process maybe of releasing the emotions through some healing, or maybe you're downloading forgiveness. Basically, you're going through some particular healing practice with your client
Yeah,
to heal it, to let go, to release. So basically, you're removing the shame that's stuck in the body and maybe replacing it. In your case, what did you replace it with?
at that time, the shame, I replaced it with the idea that that is her story and her journey, and she
Like her
wants to have
mother's.
her mother's journey and her mother's story. And for her, why does she want to have the baby, right? At the end of the day, she wanted to have a baby because she has so much love to give, right? So from that feeling of shame, it's more about I have an abundance of love
And to give, to
to
share.
give and to
Right?
share.
And
Yeah.
so that positive energy is now in place of where that negative energy was stuck in her her fertility. I mean, not her fertility, her reproductive system. And so
Yeah.
you do that. Of course, you do a lot of things because it's a
Mm.
60-minute session. Not only are you uncovering the stuff that's getting in the way, the blocks, the energy, the emotions, and releasing, but you're replacing it with something that is going to get her what she wants in her life. In her
Right.
case, it's to get pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the healing is done 60 minutes later. Now her body over a sleep cycle, usually at least one sleep
24
cycle, and
hours.
it
Yeah.
can, yeah, it can take up to a week, maybe even 2 weeks.
Mm.
Her body starts to adjust and assimilate this new kind of healed energy. And then whatever was blocking fertility opens up, and then she gets pregnant because
Yeah.
now there's no shame blocking her fertility. There is just a desire to like share and give love, which is a very high energy. It's like
Yeah.
an unconditional love energy. So now her body is actually working with her, and it is aligned with her wish, her dream of
Yeah.
having a child. And so she
Yes.
gets what she wants. And that's really, in a nutshell, right? What's happening
Yeah.
with our sessions. Anything else you wanted to share about that, Maisha?
I wanted to also what I remember also is that, for her we had to also work on that she's the product of shame herself, right? Besides
Her
the fact,
birth,
yeah, her
birth is
birth
in shame.
itself
Yeah,
is a shame. Not only that getting pregnant is shame, she herself is that product of a shameful versus that she's actually a blessing and she's meant to be here and
yeah.
that she does have purpose. I think that was also something that was very important to work on as well.
So you release the shame associated with her identity, with her
Correct.
existence, and you replace it with this feeling of like she's a blessing, right? And
Yes.
that is just a whole self-esteem thing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
go from rejecting yourself and thinking like you're not worthy, you don't deserve to be here because that's shame, to now saying, "Oh, I'm a blessing."
Mm,
So there's a sense of now respect, there's a sense of love for yourself, there's a sense of acceptance, because
yeah.
shame is something you avoid, you hide, you reject, you don't want to, you don't want to look at that. It's a shame, you're ashamed of it. But when something's a blessing, when you are a blessing, now you can look at yourself with more compassion and love and kindness, and just doing that completely changes how you show up in your
Yeah.
life, how you react with other people, how your relationships are, what you attract, because you're coming from, again, a positive vibration instead of a negative one of shame,
Yeah. And
right?
what was very interesting is that she was in like a loop, like the fact that she couldn't have a baby meant that, again, she was feeling ashamed or that I'm shameful, that I don't deserve it. Right. So this was also a very interesting loop that she was stuck in.
Stuck in, yeah.
Like it's not only that, oh, I want to have a child, I cannot, but see, it's because I don't deserve to, because I am a product of something that is
Shameful,
shameful,
right?
so
So she was stuck in this pattern of shame that was repeating in
yeah,
all aspects of life, in her
yes,
identity, in her self-worth. It was in her ability to bear a child as a woman. It was
yeah,
probably showing up in her marriage. This, I'm just
absolutely,
guessing, but it just
yeah,
seems
yeah,
like from other things that I've seen with other clients, probably in her marriage, I'm not delivering value as a woman,
yeah,
or
I'm
my
supposed to, yeah,
I'm supposed to bear children. So I
yeah,
can see how this shame would have been something that's like a theme in her life. And what we want to do is remove these negative themes and
yeah.
replace them with something more empowering, more loving, more, uplifting.
And
Now
oh, go
there's a
ahead.
comment, Maisha. I'm just going to
Oh,
step in here. There's a comment from 2D Moon and Back. Trauma from being unwanted, for not having a desired gender. Is it felt or because it's expressly communicated? It's an excellent question. It can be felt and the person never knows. That's possible. So you can still have self-worth issues. You never knew that you were unwanted, but you feel unwanted.
mm,
It could have been something you felt and you heard. So you get validation for your feeling. And it could be something also you never felt, but you were told. And then subconsciously it becomes your truth or reality. So it actually shows up in different ways of experiencing that feeling of being unwanted. It could
and I
be
want to
explicit
add
or
add
felt.
also that, it could also be translated in terms of this is why I go out of my way or overcompensate with other people because, oh, so why do you do that? Oh, because, oh, now I realize it's because I was unwanted. Hence, I need to overcompensate.
Yeah,
So
so
it
you
could
become a
be
people pleaser,
pleaser. Yeah.
over-giving, trying to earn love because you feel unwanted. That's actually very, it's the kind of behavior I would expect to see with someone who is carrying a feeling of being unwanted. And sometimes people have this feeling of being unwanted and they have no idea why.
Idea. Yeah.
Right? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I was not wanted as a child. I don't know that there was trauma in the past, but I do
Mm,
know is I never feel like I belong. I
yeah.
never feel like I'm good enough. I
Mm,
feel like everybody else is more important, or I'm
mm,
constantly pleasing other people and prioritizing them because I don't feel I matter.
yeah.
But we don't connect the dots to that started when you were in your mother's womb.
Yeah.
And, maybe your mother was not ready to be pregnant. Maybe
Mm,
you were a child of, abusive marriage.
mm-hmm.
Maybe you were a child, your mother was depressed because she lost her father while she's pregnant with you. There's so many different situations that
Yeah.
could lead to the similar outcome. The
Yeah.
key to healing is understanding why. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why in Theta Healing, we get to the root cause. We uncover why this feeling is present in you,
Yeah.
this situation, this challenge, this trauma. And then once we know the why, we can connect the dots, and we usually
Yeah.
work backwards. We can now let go of whatever
Yeah.
is
And
not good for you.
and sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, a lot of the times, once you actually, oh, that makes sense now. This now actually feels like that aha moment, right? Where now it's
Realization.
because I wasn't, wanted as a child. Now this is why, and everything just kind of connects, right? And
It makes
and
sense.
it makes
Your
sense. And
brain understands, right?
sometimes we really need that understanding
Clarity.
because a lot of the times we think, oh, am I crazy? Is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Right? Versus there is actually a reason behind why you're feeling what you're feeling.
Absolutely. Such a great point, Maisha. Now, one of our viewers is asking, can unwanted also be connected to abandoned? And really,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Mm.
Because unwanted, abandoned, even betrayal, these
Hmm.
are all rejection
Hmm.
types of programs.
Yeah.
Okay? These are wounds of rejection. So, somewhere,
Adoption, like
adoption,
adoption. I hear a lot where people went abroad to work and then they leave the kids with their aunt or their
grandma,
sister or their grandparents. I mean, it wasn't that they didn't have anybody to take care of them, but then the child feels like, why didn't my parents take me, or why didn't they want me, or why didn't they stay?
yeah,
Right? So it can again translate into so many different branches that connect to that same root of
rejection.
the issue of
Yeah, the
rejection,
rejection. Yeah,
you
right.
know?
And it's not like it's anyone's fault. We're not here to point fingers or to
Mm.
say the blame is on this
And that
person.
is
It's
important,
not.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
for
not
everybody
about
to
blame.
understand.
It's just understanding and forgiveness. It happened.
Mm.
It happened that way. But at least I understand why I've been carrying this feeling, right?
Yeah,
And do I want to still carry that? Or do I want to let it go? And do I
yeah,
want to replace it with something that's more positive, something that is actually going to make me live a better life, right? Right? Rather than make me feel
yeah.
bad about myself.
And I think that is key. And I'd love to kind of round up with a quote that I really like, and really resonates. It didn't start with us, but it can end with us, right? It is something that it doesn't have to be something that you keep
Hey,
and
yeah,
then end up passing on, because that is also key, right? You feel like, okay, now I have it and that's fine and I can deal with it. But at the end of the day, do you realize that you may also be passing this on to the future generations,
yeah,
right? So that's where accountability is very, very important in life. We can choose to heal.
yeah. Absolutely. So beautiful, beautiful message, Maisha. And, I just really want to invite people that if you are resonating with this, if this is kind of connecting to some of your own experiences, get in on Maisha's calendar, have a quick chat with her. we have something called an emotional breakthrough session, and let her help you get that breakthrough you need to kind of make sense of your life. And if it feels right to you and you want to continue to work on it, she is available to you. But if you even just want to have a chat and get clarity, right? It's a perfect opportunity to do that. And I will say, by the way, guys, Maisha's calendar can get super full. And I guess because we're still getting back into the second half of the year, so she's got a little bit more time, which is why we are still sharing these emotional breakthrough sessions. But if her calendar gets super full, then you end up having to wait for her next availability. So if you feel that some of this is connecting, just go to the link. I think it's bit.ly/e-b-s,
Yes.
right? So e-b-s, bit.ly/e-b-s. And all you got to do is click on the link, put in your details, choose a time. I think it's something like 20 minutes, Maisha,
Yeah.
15 minutes, and just have a quick chat with her, because I think you're going to learn so much from just that opportunity of connecting with, just that, short time to connect with her. And she, as Theta healers, we're super psychic. We just kind of go in and scan you, ask you some questions, and usually get to some pretty interesting breakthroughs, even in a short amount of time. So
Yeah.
you are welcome, to come in.
So the virtue cards for today is curiosity. So really ties in with everything that you've just said,
And
right? And also, thinking about what are some of the things that you've inherited, right, in your life, and kind of exploring and, looking into your life and seeing that, oh, wait a minute.
is that
This is
mine?
something like my mom used to have or think
Yeah.
or say,
Right.
oh, my mom used to say this, or my
Right.
dad used to
Or
say
you've made
this.
it true in your life,
Yeah,
right? Something they said. So it's like, is this me or is this theirs? And
yeah,
if it's theirs, you probably want to get rid of why you're carrying it. You don't need
yeah,
to, right? It's time to kind of let it go. Just like that client of yours who was carrying the shame of her mom, she didn't need to. It was time to let
yeah,
it go. And when she did let it go, she got pregnant, which was what she came in for, is the
yeah.
challenge of like infertility and not being able to bear a child. And
Mm,
once she tackled the shame, her
yeah.
body started to cooperate with her and what she wanted. So beautiful story. And I love how that connects to the card, our virtue card today. And it was just overall just such a heartwarming conversation, Maisha.
This topic is so broad. I actually wanted to explore a little bit more on this. So I think maybe next week we can go into like the past lives, the ancestors who went through, for instance, war or famine and trauma and abundance issues or financial issues. Like go a little bit more into that. Today we
Super,
talked about what we're aware about, but what are some beliefs that we didn't realize is connected to our ancestors that we never
sure.
even knew, right? So I think we need to do a part two for this one.
For sure. Absolutely. All right. It was lovely having our Tuesday Theta Talks and talking about this topic in particular. We'll continue next week. See you all Tuesday, Theta Talks, 8:30 p.m. GMT plus 8. Catch you guys soon. Bye.
Hi, everyone.